Most gardeners spend every spring buying seeds and replanting the same crops all over again. But what if your vegetables did the work for you? After 3 decades in the garden, I found that some plants multiply so reliably you only plant them once. Today, I'm sharing 15 vegetables that spread like weeds and keep producing year after year. Stay tuned for number 13 and a bonus tip that might change how you garden forever. The first vegetable on our list is the walking onion, sometimes called the Egyptian walking onion or perennial tree onion. This remarkable plant thrives in USDA zones 3 through 10, making it suitable for almost any climate in the country. What makes it so special is how it reproduces. Instead of forming flowers and seeds like most onions, it grows clusters of tiny bulbs called topsets, right at the top of its stalks. When those stalks get heavy enough, they bend over and touch the ground, planting themselves. That's how it walks across your garden over time. The variety I recommend is simply called Egyptian walking onion. Once you get a few bulbs established, you'll have onions for life without ever replanting. You can harvest the green shoots like scallions, use the underground bulbs, or even eat those little topsets. They have a strong, garlicky onion flavor that works beautifully in soups, stir-fries, and salads. The best part is there's essentially no maintenance involved. You plant it once, and it takes care of itself season after season. For lazy gardeners who love onions, this one is an absolute must. The second vegetable that multiplies effortlessly is the Jerusalem artichoke, also known as the sunchoke. Despite its name, it has no connection to Jerusalem or artichokes. It's actually a type of sunflower native to North America, and it produces delicious nutty tubers underground. This plant grows well in zones 3 through 9, and once established, it spreads aggressively through its root system. The variety I suggest is Refuge, which produces elongated tubers that are easier to clean than the knobby standard types. Plant a handful of tubers in spring, and by fall you'll have a forest of tall sunflower-like stalks with beautiful yellow blooms. Dig up what you need for the kitchen and leave the rest in the ground. Every tiny piece of tuber left behind will sprout the following year. Fair warning: Jerusalem artichokes can become almost too productive. Many gardeners find them impossible to get rid of once established, which is exactly what makes them perfect for this list. You get a perennial root vegetable that returns bigger and more abundant every single year. Roasted, mashed, or sliced raw into salads, sunchokes offer a unique harvest you'll never have to replant. The fourth vegetable on our list is rhubarb. This cold-hardy perennial thrives in zones 3 through 8 and produces those beautiful red and green stalks that are perfect for pies, jams, and sauces. What makes rhubarb ideal for the lazy gardener is its longevity and self-sufficiency. Once you plant a crown, it comes back every single spring without any intervention. Over time, those crowns grow larger and naturally divide themselves, giving you more and more stalks to harvest each year. The variety I recommend is Victoria, a classic heirloom that's been trusted by gardeners for generations. It produces thick, flavorful stalks and establishes quickly in most soil conditions. Rhubarb prefers full sun and rich soil, but it tolerates neglect remarkably well. In early spring, those crimson shoots push through the ground before most other plants have even woken up, giving you one of the earliest harvests of the season. Just remember to never eat the leaves, as they contain oxalic acid and are toxic. Stick to the stalks, and you'll enjoy decades of harvest from a single planting. Many rhubarb patches have been passed down through families for generations, still producing abundantly after 20 or 30 years. The fifth vegetable that spreads with zero effort is horseradish. This pungent root crop grows in zones 3 through 9 and is famous for its aggressive spreading habit. Once you plant horseradish, you may never get rid of it, and that's exactly the point. The variety I suggest is Big Top, known for producing large, vigorous roots with excellent flavor. Horseradish spreads through its root system, and even the smallest fragment left in the soil will regenerate into a new plant. Dig up a root for your Sunday roast, and 3 more will appear in its place by next season. The fresh roots have a heat and complexity that store-bought jars simply cannot match. To harvest, wait until after a frost in fall, then dig around the base and pull up whatever you need. Leave some roots behind and your patch will return stronger than ever. Horseradish is also incredibly low maintenance. It tolerates poor soil, drought, and partial shade. Pests leave it alone because of its potent oils. For gardeners who want a forever crop that fights back against neglect, horseradish delivers year after year without asking for anything in return. The 6th vegetable worth adding to your lazy garden is perennial kale. Unlike the annual kale most people grow, perennial varieties survive winter and regrow for many years. The variety I recommend is Taunton Dean, which thrives in zones 7 through 10 and forms a shrubby plant that can live for 5 years or more. What makes this kale special is its ability to propagate from cuttings. Snip a stem, stick it in moist soil, and it roots within weeks. One plant can become 10 plants in a single season if you want to expand your patch. Taunton Dean produces tender leaves year-round in mild climates, giving you fresh greens even in winter when other crops have long since finished. The flavor is mild and sweet, especially after a light frost. Because it's a perennial, you skip the annual cycle of starting seeds, transplanting, and waiting for harvest. The plant is already there, ready to give you leaves whenever you need them. Perennial kale is harder to find than standard varieties, but specialty nurseries and seed exchanges often carry it. Once you have it, you'll wonder why anyone bothers replanting kale every single year. The 7th vegetable that multiplies beautifully over time is asparagus. This elegant perennial grows in zones 3 through 10 and is one of the most rewarding crops a patient gardener can grow. It takes 2 to 3 years to establish a productive bed, but once mature, asparagus produces spears every spring for 20 years or more. The variety I recommend is Jersey Knight, an all-male hybrid that puts all its energy into spear production rather than seeds. Over time, asparagus crowns expand and send up more spears each season. A bed that starts with 20 crowns might be producing hundreds of spears a decade later. Harvest in spring by snapping or cutting spears when they reach 6 to 8 inches tall. Stop harvesting in early summer and let the remaining spears grow into ferny foliage, which feeds the roots for next year's crop. Asparagus prefers well-drained soil and full sun, but once established, it handles drought and neglect surprisingly well. Few vegetables offer such a generous return on your initial investment. Plant it once, care for it minimally, and enjoy decades of those tender spring spears that taste nothing like what you find at the grocery store. The 8th vegetable on our list is mint. Technically an herb, mint earns its spot here because it produces edible leaves in abundance and spreads more aggressively than almost anything else you can grow. Mint thrives in zones 3 through 10 and is infamous for taking over entire garden beds through its underground runners called rhizomes. The variety I suggest is spearmint, which has a classic fresh flavor perfect for teas, desserts, and savory dishes. Plant a single mint start in spring, and by fall it will have colonized several square feet. Leave it unchecked, and it will keep spreading indefinitely. Many gardeners consider this a problem, but for lazy gardeners who want maximum yield with no replanting, it's a gift. The key is giving mint its own dedicated space or containing it in pots sunk into the ground. Harvest frequently by cutting stems back to a few inches, which encourages bushy new growth. Mint tolerates shade, poor soil, and drought once established. It's nearly impossible to kill. Fresh mint from the garden transforms iced tea, mojitos, lamb dishes, and fruit salads into something truly special, and you'll never run out. The 10th vegetable on our list is Malabar spinach. Unlike true spinach, which bolts quickly in summer heat, Malabar spinach thrives when temperatures climb. This vining green grows as a perennial in zones 7 through 11 and as a vigorous annual elsewhere. The variety I suggest is Red Malabar, which features stunning deep red stems and produces prolifically all summer long. What makes Malabar spinach perfect for lazy gardeners is its aggressive self-seeding habit. Once established, it drops seeds in fall that overwinter in the soil and sprout the following spring without any intervention. In warm climates, the roots survive winter and send up new growth year after year. The thick, glossy leaves have a mild, slightly mucilaginous texture that works beautifully in stir-fries, soups, and curries. You can also eat them raw in salads when harvested young. Malabar spinach climbs vigorously, so give it a trellis or let it scramble over a fence. A single plant can produce pounds of leaves over a long growing season. While other greens struggle and bolt in July heat, Malabar spinach is just getting started, giving you fresh spinach flavor when you need it most. The 11th vegetable that multiplies everywhere is lamb's quarters. Many gardeners consider this plant a weed and spend years trying to eradicate it, but wise gardeners recognize it as one of the most nutritious greens you can eat. Lamb's quarters grows in zones 3 through 10 and produces tender leaves that taste similar to spinach, but with higher protein and mineral content. There's no specific cultivar to seek out because lamb's quarters grows wild and isn't typically sold as a named variety. Once you let a few plants go to seed in your garden, you'll have lamb's quarters returning every single year in abundance. Each plant produces thousands of tiny seeds that remain viable in the soil for decades. The young leaves and tender stem tips are delicious raw in salads or cooked like spinach. Harvest before the plants flower for the best texture and flavor. Lamb's quarters tolerates almost any soil condition and often appears in disturbed ground, compost piles, and garden edges. Instead of pulling it out, start harvesting it. You'll get a continuous supply of nutrient-dense greens from spring through fall without ever planting a single seed. Sometimes the best crops are the ones that plant themselves. The 12th vegetable worth embracing is New Zealand spinach. Despite its name, this heat-loving green isn't related to true spinach at all. It thrives in zones 8 through 11 as a perennial and grows as a self-seeding annual in cooler regions. The variety is simply called Tetragonia, which is actually its genus name. New Zealand spinach spreads along the ground as a dense, succulent mat, creating edible ground cover that shades out weeds and retains soil moisture. Once established, it reseeds so heavily that you'll have volunteers popping up throughout your garden every warm season. The thick, triangular leaves have a mild spinach flavor and hold up well to cooking without turning slimy. Harvest by pinching off stem tips, which encourages branching and even more growth. Unlike true spinach, New Zealand spinach doesn't bolt in summer heat. It actually performs best when temperatures rise, producing abundantly right through the hottest months. This makes it the perfect succession crop to take over when your spring spinach gives up. Give it full sun and decent drainage, and New Zealand spinach will reward you with months of fresh greens. After one planting, expect it to return on its own indefinitely. The 13th vegetable on our list is purslane. This succulent green is often dismissed as a common weed, but it's actually one of the most nutritious plants you can eat, packed with omega-3 fatty acids rarely found in vegetables. Purslane grows in zones 3 through 10 and spreads rapidly through both stem fragments and prolific seed production. The variety I recommend is golden purslane, which has beautiful yellow-green leaves and a milder flavor than wild types. Once purslane establishes in your garden, it returns every warm season without fail. A single plant can produce over 200,000 seeds, so even aggressive harvesting won't eliminate your supply. The thick, juicy leaves have a slightly tangy, lemony flavor with a pleasant crunch. They're wonderful in salads, sandwiches, and stir-fries. Purslane also makes an excellent cooked green, similar to a succulent version of spinach. It thrives in poor soil, tolerates drought, and actually becomes more flavorful under slight stress. Harvest entire stems, or just pinch off the tender tips. The plant responds by branching and producing even more growth. For lazy gardeners who want a superfood that practically grows itself, purslane is hard to beat. Stop fighting it and start eating it instead. The 14th vegetable that returns faithfully is arugula. This peppery salad green thrives in zones 3 through 10 and self-seeds so reliably that you'll wonder why anyone buys seeds more than once. The variety I recommend is wild arugula, which has more deeply lobed leaves and a stronger, nuttier flavor than common arugula. Wild arugula is also more heat-tolerant and slower to bolt, giving you a longer harvest window. Once you let a few plants flower and set seed, you'll have arugula volunteering throughout your garden every spring and fall. The tiny white or yellow flowers are edible too, with the same spicy kick as the leaves. Arugula prefers cool weather and will germinate on its own when soil temperatures drop in autumn and again in early spring. This means you get 2 natural crops each year without lifting a finger. Harvest outer leaves continuously, or cut entire plants at the base. Young leaves are tender and mild, while mature leaves pack more peppery heat. Arugula adds instant flavor to salads, sandwiches, pizzas, and pasta dishes. It grows quickly, often ready to harvest just 30 to 40 days after germination. For a constant supply of gourmet greens with zero replanting, wild arugula delivers season after season. The 15th and final vegetable on our list is green onions. Also called scallions or bunching onions, these versatile alliums grow in zones 3 through 10 and multiply reliably year after year. The variety I recommend is evergreen bunching onion, a hardy perennial type that forms expanding clumps rather than single bulbs. Plant a handful in spring, and by the following year you'll have twice as many. Each year the clumps grow larger, giving you an ever-increasing harvest. You can also regrow green onions from kitchen scraps by placing the root ends in soil or water, though starting with evergreen bunching gives you a truly perennial patch. Harvest by pulling entire stalks or cutting leaves an inch above the soil and letting them regrow. The white bases have a stronger onion flavor, while the green tops are milder and perfect for finishing dishes. Green onions are ready to harvest in as little as 60 days from planting and continue producing for years once established. They tolerate partial shade and average soil without complaint. For soups, stir-fries, salads, baked potatoes, and countless other dishes, having a permanent patch of green onions just steps from your kitchen is a luxury every gardener deserves. And now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by. If you want these self-spreading vegetables to establish even faster, stop cleaning up your garden so thoroughly in fall. Those seed heads you normally cut back and throw away are next year's free plants. Let your arugula, lamb's quarters, and chives go to seed and simply leave the dried stalks standing through winter. Rain, snow, and frost will naturally work those seeds into the soil exactly where they need to be. Come spring, you'll see volunteers emerging without any effort on your part. The same principle applies to root crops like Jerusalem artichokes and horseradish. Instead of harvesting every last tuber, deliberately leave some behind. Think of it as paying your garden forward. The messier your fall cleanup, the more abundant your spring volunteers. This simple shift in mindset transforms your garden from something you plant every year into a self-sustaining food system that gets more productive over time. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.